So this is the Yoga Sutra that we are going to study, and this will be our class number 35. We were pursuing chapter number 3, and it is about Vibhuti Yoga, means the powers that one would achieve by practicing this yoga. I would like to go back to the end of the last talk, which we did on 19th December last year. We were discussing aphorism number 9 there. Just to give a gist of the last portion of that talk as a link to today's study, we have learnt 3 words. They need to be remembered. One is Nirodha Samskara. The second is Vyuthana Samskara. And the third is Nirodha Parinama. Now let us learn the words. Nirodha means stopping. Samskara means habit or impressions that guide our habits. So Nirodha Samskara means the habit of stopping. Once more, Nirodha means stopping and Samskara means habit. So Nirodha Samskara means the habit of stopping, controlling, or the effort of controlling or stopping contrary thoughts. What are the contrary thoughts? Samadhi. Suppose we call it meditation. That means concentrating on one particular thought. On one particular thought, accepting this one thought, suppose thought of God or anything, accepting this particular one thought, all other thoughts are called contrary thoughts. Clear? Then the next word we learned, Vyuthana Samskara. Vyuthana means rising or waking up. Samskara means the same habit. So Vyuthana Samskara together means the habit of or the effort of or the popping up of contrary thoughts. I have told why these are called contrary thoughts. So Vyuthana Samskara awakens the contrary thoughts. And there is another phrase we have learnt, Nirodha Parinama. First one was Nirodha Samskara, that tries to control contrary thoughts. And Vyuthana Samskara, that tries to awaken the contrary thoughts. And Nirodha Parinama. We know what the word Nirodha means. That means stopping. So the word Parinama is new, at least at this moment. Parinama means in plain language an outcome or a result. So we have known 3 phrases, Nirodha Samskara, Vyuthana Samskara and Nirodha Parinama. To put it in English, the habit of stopping contrary thoughts, the habit of allowing contrary thoughts to rise again, and the outcome or total result of these 2 habits, that is, which one of these 2 wins in the end. In this, it is highlighted that there are 2 types of habits. One is to increase the habit to stop or sublimate contrary thoughts, and another is the tendency or habit of allowing the appearance or reappearance of contrary thoughts. Once again, number 1, the habit of stopping contrary thoughts. Number 2, the habit of allowing contrary thoughts to rise again. And number 3, the outcome or result of this effort that is being used by an aspirant. So Parinama Samskara is the result of the ups and downs in our spiritual practices, our yoga practices, or the outcome of our Chitta Vritti Nirodha practices. The Yogasutras said in the very second sutra or aphorism in the first chapter, Yogaha chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga means nirodha, or stopping of the modifications of the mind, the changes in the mind. We will know more about this process going ahead. It is so comforting to realize that this process of the tug of war, so to say, this battle between two tendencies or habits, is called by a very sweet name, sadhana, spiritual practice. When we are at it and in it, we are performing spiritual practice, sadhana. When we are engaged in this tug of war, when we are engaged in this type of strain, practices, then we are engaged in spiritual sadhana. Now we can move on to the next aphorism. Tasya prasanta bahita samskarat. The flow of that means tasya vahita becomes steady, prashanta, samskarat, by habit. The flow of this continuous control of the mind becomes steady when practiced day after day, and the mind obtains the faculty of constant concentration. Prashanta means gathered or not disturbed. The commentator says Prashanta means without changes. Their technical expressions are the two states of the mind called Vikshipta and Ekagra mind. Remember the states of mind we have discussed in the beginning of the study of the Yogasutras? To repeat it once again, the 5 states of the mind are Kshipta, means that is always changing from one thought or one kind of thoughts to another, and so on. Always changing, restless. Mudha, second one is Mudha, means dull, inert. Third one is Vikshipta. Literally it means, I say literally because I will explain it later. Literally it means more and more disturbed or more and more restless. But here the meaning is Vikshipta means Vishesha Rupena Kshipta. It is sometimes scattered and sometimes gathered. Is it not the state of the mind of people or so-called normal people in general? Yeah, it has improved itself and it is different from Kshipta and Mudha, the two states that are always restless and or dull. Then the fourth one is called Ekagra, or concentrated. That means it is more and more concentrated. And finally the fifth one is Niruddha, that is controlled or stuck with one object. Compare this Niruddha with Nirodha Parinama that we have learned just now. We will come to that later in detail. Now we have said that Vikshipta and Ekagra, these two states of mind, come under the word Prashanta state or gathered state. Clear? These are the states of mind when it is possible to concentrate, to meditate. Meditation is not possible with the Vikshipta mind, the Kshipta mind, the mind which is always restless. With the Mudha mind which is dull, wants to sleep or inert. But in the state of Vikshipta, when it is sometimes gathered, sometimes scattered, meditation is possible. And Ekagra, of course, this state where meditation is easily possible. Let us also remember what the commentator Vyasa has said while explaining the aphorism number 12 in the very first chapter itself. And Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tan Nirodha, and there this is number 12 of the 12 aphorism in the first chapter. So he said, Chitta nadinama ubhayata vahini vahati kalyanaya vahati papaya cha. We know Chitta means the thinking organ, or in plain language it is the mind instrument. It is compared to a spatial river, Chitta nadinama. Why is it called a spatial river? We need to stress it as a spatial river because most of us are familiar with the river that flows to one direction. But those who live near a river, like the river Ganga near our headquarters in Belmont, know that it flows in both directions. One during the low tide towards the sea, the Bay of Bengal, and then during high tide it reverses its direction. It flows to the other opposite direction. So the mind river flows in both directions. It can flow or can have the effect, parinama, to bring fulfillment in our life, kalyanaya. At the same time, it also can flow or can have the effect, parinama, to bring destruction, papaha, bhavati papaya cha. It is a destruction of a rare privilege that we enjoy as a human being. That is what is called destruction. The flow in any direction can have increased or decreased frequency and wavelength. And in one direction itself it can, and it does, alternate between wavelength and frequency. Like for example, frequency to wavelength to frequency to wavelength, like that. Here we compare the frequency with the extent of restlessness and the wavelength as representing the extent of quiet or peace. Suppose you go down to the bottom and do not come up so quickly. That means you stay at the same level at the bottom for longer time. Bottom of a lake, bottom of something. You stay with your own self for a longer period of time when you dive deep in meditation. Your time is described as present there, not past or nor future. It is present because you are in the presence of your own self. This self is beyond time, right? The nature of the self is peaceful happiness. So, the longer you are able to be in the presence of your own self, the longer you experience peaceful happiness. This is the result or parinama of nirodha samskara, of the practice of stopping the changes in the mind. Now the next aphorism, that is 3.11, this aphorism is taking us one more step forward. It says how samadhi parinama is achieved. That means how the samadhi parinama is different from or an advanced stage of prashanta vahita state. Prashanta means shanti, the steadiness, it continues. We have learnt number one, nirodha samskara, then vyuthana samskara, then nirodha parinama, then prashanta vahita. Now we are learning samadhi parinama. This way we are being taken by the hand step by step, or if we do not like to be guided by others, then not taken by hand, I would say we are ourselves moving towards on a chain, link by link. The next aphorism clarifies this point in this way. Sarvarthata ekagratayoho kshayodayo chittasya samadhi parinamaha. This is the word samadhi parinama. Sarvarthata, that means taking in all sorts of objects. That is a disturbed mind. You are going on thinking of different things, continuously changing between things. And ekagrata means concentrating upon one object. These two powers being Kshaya destroyed and Udaya manifested respectively, the Chitta gets Samadhi Parinama. This transformation that is called Samadhi. Swami Vivekananda says, the mind takes up various objects, runs into all sorts of things. That is the lower state. There is a higher state of the mind, he says, when it takes up one object and excludes all other objects, of which Samadhi is the Parinama or result. There is a difference between Nirodha Parinama, the result of practicing withdrawal of the mind, and Samadhi Parinama, the result of practicing Samadhi. The result means Parinama. Nirodha Parinama, or the result of practicing the withdrawal of the mind, brings about a decrease in disturbing habits or samskaras. It is called samskara kshaya, decrease in the stock of the stored up impressions. By the word impressions, we are talking about stopping bad impressions. Because a spiritual practitioner will surely be engaged in doing so. At the same time, it brings about an increase in the habits of concentration on one object. This is called samskara udaya, kshaya and udaya. The increase or appearance of new good samskaras, that is what is the meaning of udaya. Udaya means appearance. Samadhi parinama, or the result of practicing samadhi, helps, number one, not only stopping the contrary samskaras or habits and increasing favorable habits, but also it helps stopping the contrary pratyayas, tendencies, not only the habits but their tendencies, and increasing favorable tendencies. It is a bit difficult to understand, but I will try to explain it more. It not only works on samskaras or habits, but also it works on pratyayas or tendencies. Clear? Now let me give an illustration to understand these two words. Habits or samskaras and pratyaya, tendencies. Suppose you hold back a child from touching a glowing lamp or fire. You are holding that fellow back. Still, we see that the child will be trying to look at the fire and will stretch the hands to show that it is inclined to go back and touch the fire if it is released. That is everybody's experience, and how wonderful it is to remember such an incident. Now the tendency will be there. You have held the child back, but you could not stop its tendency. The child represents both the samskaras and the tendencies together. The tendency of the child is called pratyaya, wanting to go forward or toward something. The tendency, the inclination. It is true that you have got control over the physical body of the child, over the samskaras, and continue to hold back the child. That is true. But that may be good enough, but not enough or not all. May be good enough. You have also gained control over the tendency of the child, over the pratyayas. You have to gain control. You have to gain control, not only control over the body of the child, but over the tendency of the child. And also you have to continue with that control on the tendencies for some time, until the child forgets. Then what do? We know, everyone knows what we do. You not only keep on holding the child, but also try to divert its attention to something else. Suppose a colorful doll or something, some toffee or something like that. In this context of Nirodha, about the mind, you offer a spiritual goal to the mind. Instead of giving a colorful doll or a toffee to a child, you give to the mind some better goal, a spiritual goal to the mind to get engaged with. And as a consequence, the mind will forget about the bad samskaras. This is called samadhi parinama, the result of practicing samadhi. You not only have gain control over the samskaras, but you gain control over the tendencies. The tendencies that would create further samskaras. Parinama means the effect or result, and that is what is called samadhi, effect of samadhi. Clear? Yes, it is clear. But let us look at the sequence that we have discussed today till now. We have learned number 1, Nirodha Samskara, the habit of stopping bad samskaras. Then number 2, Vyuthana Samskara, the habit of manifesting bad samskaras. We have learned that there is a continuous tug of war, friction, or going back and forth between these two. The result is said to be positive. That is Nirodha Parinama, the positive result of achieving success in favor of good samskaras. Right? And we have learned that the flow of good samskaras is called Prashanta Vahita, continuous flow of peace. Then that brings Samadhi Parinama, in short Samadhi. Now suppose the first tug of war between the force of the bad samskaras and that of the good samskaras is won by the bad samskara forces. Suppose it reverses. What will be the effect? The effect is not spiritual. We will be overpowered by the force of worldliness, which is changeful, and hence destruction will be the result. This finally leads us to a destruction of us also, the practitioners. The process, if it goes wrong, will develop this way. Like, let me say it. Firstly, Nirodha Samskara, the habit of control of the bad samskaras, fails. Vyuthana Samskara, the habit of encouraging or increasing bad samskaras, wins. The result will be that Nirodha Parinama means it is a failed effort. We will meet with failure in our effort to control bad things and to gain more and more good results. That means the gain of control is completely lost, and it gives rise to Vyuthana Parinama, not Nirodha Parinama. This we have to understand. The result will be that at the end of our struggle, the result, Parinama, will be that at the end of our struggle between the good and the bad habits increase. This word Vyuthana Parinama is not, of course, mentioned in the either by Patanjali or by the commentator Vyasa, but the implied meaning is indicative of such a fate. Then naturally the next development will be not Prashanta Vahita, continuous flow of peace. No, it won't happen. What will happen? Ashanta Vahita, a continuous flow of discontent, quiet, restlessness. Ashanta. Shanta means quietness, Ashanta means restlessness. And that will land us not in the Samadhi Parinama, achieving Samadhi at the end result, but Vinasha Parinama, achieving a result that is temporary and therefore it is perishable. Vinasi. Vinashyati, Sri Krishna says. And it is vinasi, perishable, because it is not permanent. As I said, the book, the Yogasutras and the commentators did not discuss this process of failure. There is a reason for that. The reason is, it is understood that the aspirant or the practitioners are spiritual practitioners, and hence they will be winning the struggle, which is called sadhana. They will be winning in the sadhana. Sri Ramakrishna says that God is a more powerful magnet than material enjoyments. than the power of this world. Hence, his power is sure to succeed. And so many do succeed. Swami Vivekananda says, the yardstick of judgment is not how many fail, but how many succeed. He explained it with a beautiful illustration. Suppose there is a mango tree. In the process of producing fruits, we see that many fruits are fallen on the ground. Some are eaten by insects, worms and birds. Some are rotten. Some have failed to complete the whole process. And finally, the tree could produce only one ripe mango fruit. Swami Vivekananda says, the quality of the tree will be judged not by those huge number of fruits that have fallen on the ground, but by the one ripe fruit that reached its success, completion. Moving forward, the Yogasutras says, Tata shantodito tulya pratyayo chittasya ekagrata parinamaha. Tata, in that state of samadhi, punaha, again, ekagrata parinamaha, the one-pointedness, chittasya, of the chitta, of the mind, is achieved when shantaha, the impression that is past, has become quiet, that is why it is past. And uditaha, that which is present, now it has come into the surface. Tulya are similar. It is a wonderful, wonderful discovery here. There are two versions of this aphorism. One includes the first two words, tata punaha, that we have explained now. Very interesting and a real eye-opener indeed. Generally, we think that ekagrata or one-pointedness of the mind means that your thought process stands still at one point. There is no other activity going on excepting holding on to the same one thought for a long time. That is what is called ekagrata. That's what we understand. That is also true. Holding on the same thought for a long time. We reviewed this process in our discussion about the vrittis in the very beginning of the study of this book. It occurs in the second aphorism of the first chapter. Vritti means the smallest basic unit of mental form, which is commonly called a thought. Vritti is a unit for the mind like the electrical units of volts, ampere, etc. Each one of my thoughts is different. Like an apple thought, an anger thought, an idea, my mistake, etc. They are different in nature. They are different thoughts with different shape, sizes and intensities. But how does the same thought grip me for a long time, which I call concentration, ekagrata? It happens because it is not the same thought, but the same kind of thoughts that grips my mind for a long time. This we have to remember. It is not holding on to one thought, but it is holding on to the same kind of thoughts. That is called a flow of vrittis or thoughts, a flow of thoughts. What is a flow of the same kind of vrittis? Suppose when I am thinking of an apple constantly, it is a flow of the smallest and basic units of the same apple thought, apple vritti. That means many apple forms repeating one after another as a flow. That means it is a flow of many changes of similar apple forms. In Sanskrit, this phenomenon is expressed this way, vrittinam anuvrittihi, a repetition of the vrittis. All anger forms, or anger vrittis are separate from each other but similar. All anger forms in the change or flow are separate, but they are similar. They appear to be a flow of one anger form. They appear to be a flow. Let me repeat it. All anger forms in the change or flow are separate, but because they are similar, they appear to be a flow of one anger form. Now each anger form is called an anger vritti or an anger thought, right? What do we understand now? One anger form or apple vritti is similar to but separate from another anger vritti, another apple vritti, and so on. And one vritti relinquishes its place to the next one to create a flow. Sajatiya pratyaya pravaha. So you remain angry for a long time, you are happy for a long time, you are thinking of an apple for a long time. Clear? Now suppose you changed your thought process into hatred. The method is the same. Many hatred vrittis make a flow or current of hatred. Apple vrittis are not only separate but also different from hatred or anger vrittis. Similarly, apple vritti flows are not only separate but also different from hatred vritti flows. They are called vijatiya vritti pravaha. Vijatiya means not of the same kind. One flow, like for example the apple vritti flow, is replaced by another, suppose the hatred vritti flow. That breaks the concentration. Thus our mind stuff or chitta too often changes the vrittis and also the flows of vrittis. In a sense, our mind stuff itself changes into different vrittis and different flows of vrittis. Correct? Once again, our mind stuff or chitta too often changes the vrittis and also the flows of vrittis. In a sense, our mind itself changes into different vrittis and different flows. It takes different colors. Clear? Swami Vivekananda says, let me read here. How are we to know that the mind has become concentrated? Because the idea of time will vanish. This is a wonderful, wonderful expression or discovery. The more the time passes unnoticed, the more concentrated we are. In common life, he says, we see that when we are interested in a book, we do not note the time at all. And when we leave the book, we are often surprised to find how many hours have passed. In such cases, all time will have that tendency to come and stand in the one called present. So the definition is given, when the past and present, shantoditau, come and stand in one, tulya pratyayo, the mind is said to be concentrated, chittasya ekagrata parinamaha. This is a revealing passage, the explanation. The idea of past and present coming to a stand in one is a thing to be reckoned with. It is so comforting to live through such experiences in one's own spiritual life, not only in yoga life. This gives value, meaning or fulfillment to our spiritual sadhanas, our spiritual quest. Just think of this. You are trying to come out of an unfortunate state of being in the grip of anger. try to understand that it is a flow of anger thoughts. Many smallest units of thoughts called anger vrittis are repeating themselves and continuing to torment you. You feel as if time has come to a halt. Nothing is changing to give you a break. Now follow the path of yoga. Try to divert the attention of your mind from anger thoughts by introducing a small basic unit of love thought, which is different in its kind from that of anger and other thoughts. Of course, I am using this term love in the sense of a skill, a learnable skill, not just an emotion. There are a lot of anger concerning our emotional love life. So there is anger coexisting with love. Sadly though. However, I am talking about altruistic love, humane love. Not going into that topic in detail, let me deal with the subject of how to divert our attention from anger to love. As our common knowledge says, it can be as simple as this, like try to use love towards the person you are angry with. That is wrong. Why? I will explain it. Yoga has elaborated on that. Yoga is saying guide your love thought towards an other person, a person among those who you love, not the same person with whom you have problem. You will experience that it is also difficult to do this simple exercise, expressing your love to your other loved one. It is not easy at that moment. But at that moment and in that state of active anger, it is less difficult to turn to someone else than loving the very object of your anger. You have a chance not only to arouse love in you, but you can weep. Show your sadness to unburden you. Do not just hide the disappointment or anger in yourself. That will let anger grow into a mushroom cloud. Many scholars of psychology try to canonize love, which has become a fashion like a cosmetic use, saying that if you want to combat with hatred, practice love. Practice love towards the object of your hatred. This is not easy, or rather it is counterproductive. If love be the antidote for anger or hatred, then let us practice love with someone else at that moment. It is safer to do when you are already in a situation of active anger or hatred. Clear? The idea is to replace anger or hatred by love, that's all. Then it is necessary to cultivate love with whoever be the object. Just practice love. You need to awaken the quality of love in you. Remember that wonderful poem, Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead by Lord Tennyson. A lady lost her husband in a battle. They brought the dead body of the soldier to her. There lay the body near her, bedecked with a spotless white cloth. The first stanza of the poem goes like this. Home they brought her warrior dead. She nor shoon nor uttered cry. All her maidens watching said, she must weep or she will die. She must weep or she will die. So what did others around her do? Someone removed the cloth cover from the face of the dead man. The lady saw this but did not move nor react. The lady, stunned by grief, was not only a wife but also she was a mother. What happened next? I will let the poem speak for itself. Rose a nurse of 90 years, set his child upon her knee. Like summer tempest came her tears, sweet my child, I live for thee. Love, hatred, anger, etc., when produced only by our emotions and therefore our expectations, are realities of the worldly versions of our life. There is always contradiction in this version of these emotions. As a result, we suffer from this dvandva, the pairs of opposites, both love and hatred, cold and heat, etc. The yoga and other spiritual books and lives of saints and sages take such a person as their target to help. The famous Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard dealt with the emotions and feelings of individuals when faced with life choices. He writes in his book Either or, A Fragment of Life. He writes, I quote, "You may marry, you will regret it. If you don't marry, you will also regret it. If you marry or do not marry, you will regret both. Laugh at the world's follies, you will regret it. Weep over them, you will also regret that. Laugh at the world's follies or weep over them, you will regret both. Whether you laugh at the world's follies or weep over them, you will regret both." End quote. He goes still further, enumerating such contradictions, and then sums up his conclusion this way. I quote, This gentleman, yes, is the sum and substance of all philosophy." End quote. This gentleman or gentle lady who is caught up in this uncertainty of either or regrets, is the subject of all spiritual help. Clear? Yes, because it is speaking of me or any one of us. That apart, in a more serious note, let us turn our attention to the discussion on the practice of similar thoughts. Let us take up the most important outcome of our understanding in this respect. How does the time in past and present stand in one, as Swami Vivekananda has said, as if it comes to a standstill, to a changeless state? A very good question indeed. The aphorism says, Shanta and Udita, past and present, Tulya Pratyaya. This word Tulya is very important. Same kind of modifications. You can compare them, they are similar. Same. Now, there is a mechanism in this. It is so similar to the idea of mutation or replication in evolutionary biology. An old cell dies, giving rise to a new cell. If the new cell is exactly similar to the old one, then there will be no question of change between the earlier old cell and the present new cell. Suppose the English letter, first letter in the alphabet A, is replaced by A. Then we will stop aging. I have of course no idea how the biological aging can be stopped. But this idea of Tulya Pratyaya, same kind of modification, gives clue to how to stop the time from changing between the past and the future. Because there is the same kind of modification or modifications from past to present. And imagine what? The time stops there. Because this experience of time will be an experience which is called present, in present, whatever be its length. You do not move between past and future. You do not experience time as present just momentarily, kshanikam, in a fleeting moment. So you actually have almost no present in your waking experience. But this process of repetition of the units of the same kind of thoughts keeps you in ever present. Like suppose A changes into A, and suppose both are the same A in all respects, then you do not lose any A of the past and you do not get a new A in the present. Clear? That will be the sense. That will be the experience, and uninterrupted experience of an ever now. Because when the observer of changefulness does not have any changefulness to experience, the observer is always in his or in her own presence in the present. Time stops there. The observer of changefulness does not have any changefulness to experience. What does it experience then? It experiences itself, which is the present. He is always or she is always present. That is why we see that people feel so refreshed after a long and good meditation. That is why so many people feel mentally younger than their actual biological age. Many of the times it is difficult to correctly guess the age of a person who is leading a regulated life, a monk and such others, because they can stop time mentally. It will have psychosomatic effect. May be true. Who knows? This is called samadhi parinama, or concentration in samadhi. It is a concentration on the unbroken flow of one type of thoughts, vrittis. It is somewhat like the Buddhistic illustration of Alata Chakra. You tie a burning or glowing charcoal to a string and go on whirling it in a circular motion. What will you see? You will see a continuous glowing circle. See the illusion? Actually, what happens is that the same piece of burning or glowing charcoal is changing places in each moment in a rapid succession, that you start seeing it as a continuous circle, not as a small piece of charcoal. Suppose the charcoal is called A, the first letter of the English alphabet A. A is changing places in a rapid pace or speed to create the circle. So the same A is everywhere, in every place of the circle. The A is the circle. A is the reality behind the appearance of the circle. The circle is relative, an illusion, whereas the A is real, right? But in the concept of tulya pratyaya, A is being substituted by another same type of A. One similar thought, suppose one apple thought or anger thought is being substituted by another same type of thought. Suppose a godly thought, a God thought is being substituted by another God thought. Then there is no question of changing place and no question of creating a continuous flow like we saw in the case of the burning charcoal. Since there is no question of changing place, there is no question of considering time as an experience. What a revelation. See this thing here. In case of the burning charcoal, the one single small burning charcoal went on changing place and creating a circle. But here, the thought, God thought, is replaced by God thought only. And there is no question of changing place. There is no question of creating illusion of anything. And since there is no question of changing place, there is no question of considering time as an experience. I go from this point to another point, I change place, and therefore it takes time to reach there. How far is your home from my home? 2 minutes. But there is no experience because there is no changing of place. I know this is a very difficult argument to grasp, or it is also the easiest argument to follow. Hence, let me repeat it. We have seen that in the concept of the burning charcoal, there is a question of the same charcoal changing places in high speed. The act of changing places means time. But in this concept of tulya pratyaya, or A being replaced or substituted, not replaced, substituted by another same type of A and so on, there is no question of something changing place and creating an illusion of continuous flow. Since there is no question of changing place, no question of place at all, there is no question of considering time as an experience. That is the revelation. So I think that is more than enough for us to think over. It is a wonderful concept and a wonderful discovery here by Patanjali, and it is so efficiently explained by Vyasa and Swami Vivekananda that we found how, after a long time of meditation or reading of books, as Swami Vivekananda says, that we forget time. We just don't know how so much time has passed already. And that experience happens because we always remain in present. And that is how one can stop the time and live in present, and in the presence of one's own self, or in the presence of God, if we are thinking of God thoughts. Okay, I thank you very much for your participation and would say goodbye to you.